Today, almost all the money in the world is not physical at all, just numbers moving between computers. But behind those numbers hides a myth. Economists made up giant stones nobody ever moves, wooden sticks that accidentally burn down a parliament, and a promise one president broke overnight. For centuries, the story taught in schools went like this. Before money, people bartered directly, trading a chicken for a pair of shoes until someone invented coins to make trading easier. Modern anthropologists studying real historical records have found almost no evidence that large-scale direct barter between strangers ever actually happened this way. Instead, the earliest economic systems we have real records of were built on credit and debt. A village simply remembered who owed what to whom. One of the clearest proofs of this comes from a surprisingly humble object, a simple notched wooden stick. Tally sticks were invented independently in medieval England, in China, and among the Maya, and they all worked the same clever way. A debt was recorded by cutting notches into a stick, then splitting the stick lengthwise into two matching pieces, one for the lender, one for the borrower. Because the wood grain made every split unique, the two halves could only ever fit back together perfectly with each other, making forgery almost impossible. In England, the royal treasury, known as the Exchequer, used tally sticks to record tax payments for over 600 years. The system was finally declared obsolete in 1826, replaced by paper record-keeping, leaving the government with 2 full cartloads of useless old sticks. In 1834, workers were ordered to simply burn the old tally sticks in furnaces underneath the House of Lords to get rid of them. The fire burned so intensely that it overheated the chimney flues, and by that evening, the entire historic palace of Westminster was engulfed in flames. It remains one of the largest fires London has ever seen, all triggered by burning an obsolete accounting system nobody thought was dangerous. Long before tally sticks, though, humans had already found other ways to represent value without any coins at all. Small shells called cowries collected from the Indian Ocean were used as currency across parts of Asia and Africa starting around 1200 years before the Common Era. Cowrie shells were light, easy to count, nearly impossible to counterfeit, and durable enough to last for generations, making them remarkably effective money. But perhaps the strangest form of money in human history comes from a tiny Pacific island called Yap in modern-day Micronesia. The people of Yap used giant carved limestone discs called rye stones as currency, some of them taller than an adult and far too heavy for one person to lift. The stones were not even mined on Yap itself. They were quarried on an island nearly 300 miles away and transported home by canoe and raft at enormous risk. Because the stones were nearly impossible to move once placed, the people of Yap simply agreed, out loud, on who owned each one, without ever physically moving it again. In one famous case, a huge stone being transported by raft fell into the ocean and sank completely out of sight. The community agreed the stone's owner had not actually lost any wealth, since everyone still remembered and accepted that the stone, and its value, still existed exactly where it sank. That sunken stone is reportedly still recognized as valid currency today, changing hands purely through shared memory and trust, with nobody having seen it in well over a century. Coins, as we usually picture them, standardized metal pieces stamped with an official mark, first appeared around the 7th century before the Common Era, in the Kingdom of Lydia in modern-day Turkey. Lydian coins were made from electrum, a naturally occurring mix of gold and silver, and their standardized weight let merchants trust a coin's value instantly, without weighing precious metal by hand every time. Centuries later, in 9th century China, merchants grew tired of carrying heavy strings of metal coins over long trade routes and started leaving them with trusted shops in exchange for paper receipts. Those paper receipts could be exchanged back for coins at any partner shop, and merchants soon realized the paper itself was easier to trade directly, which is how the world's first paper money was born. For most of the last few centuries, paper money was not valuable on its own. It was simply a promise, printed on paper, that could be exchanged for a fixed amount of gold held in a national vault. This system, known as the gold standard, was meant to keep governments honest. They could only print as much money as the gold in their vaults could actually back. By 1971, the United States government was struggling to keep that promise, as more dollars existed around the world than the gold in its vaults could realistically cover. On a Sunday evening that August, an American television broadcast announced a sudden decision. The United States would stop exchanging dollars for gold, effective immediately. The announcement was officially described as a temporary measure, but the gold standard it suspended was never brought back, not by that government or any government since. From that moment on, the money in your wallet has been backed by nothing physical at all, only by shared trust in the government that issues it, the exact same kind of trust that once protected a sunken stone on the ocean floor. Today, over 90% of the world's money does not exist as physical cash at all. It exists only as digits inside banking computer systems, moved by a keystroke instead of a coin changing hands. So the next time you tap a card to pay for your coffee, remember what is really behind that simple number on the screen: a busted barter myth. Sticks that burn down a parliament, shells from the ocean, a stone still owned though no one has seen it in a century, and a promise broken one, quiet Sunday evening.